Okay, so as we get started here in tech drafting / CAD, this is one of the very first classes, if not the first class, in either the mechanical engineering technology program or the mechanical design program. So if you're in one of those two programs, like I said, you're in the right place. Now, when you come into the tech drafting course, you're going to have this home screen here. And last week, I sent you like a little announcement saying, if you wanted to take a peek out here, you certainly could, but there was nothing really to do except, try to get your textbook and all that kind of stuff. If you don't have your textbook this evening, don't worry, okay? I'll talk about, that and what that you can have. So our goal tonight is really to get you familiar with the course expectations. So we're going to go over the syllabus. And then we're also going to be kind of going through Canvas here so you know where to find things if and when you need to. And then we're also going to get started on Module 1. Okay, so let's start up over here. When you open up our Canvas course, like I said, you're at the home page here, but this is kind of like before the class starts. Where we're going to live is going to be over here on this left-hand side. So announcements. If we click on the announcement here, if there is more than one announcement for the class, you're going to see them listed, and the top one is always going to be the most current one. So if I end up sending out an announcement, it's going to be something, to let you know, the whole class about something, maybe a change or whatever. It doesn't happen a ton, but the announcements will be there. Announcements are always going to be sent via email. So you're going to get an email. If you have your WCTC email, for instance, on an electronic device like a phone, then you will get that automatically there. Or if you have to check it manually. I always tell students it's always a good idea. The classes don't change all that much. I'm pretty darn consistent, but I might get sick and I might have to cancel class. And I definitely would send out an announcement for that. So always check your email, not just for me, but for any other classes that you have here at WCTC, because that's our main mode of communication with you. Okay. So this you would have gotten last week, and I had sent that, just kind of welcoming you to the class. And if you want to take a peek, look around. So directly below that, you are going to find that here is the syllabus. Okay. Now the syllabus is what we're going to be focusing on tonight. Okay. So if you want to click over on the syllabus page, you're going to have the same thing on your screen as what we have here. So it just kind of gives us a little bit of an overview. We're in Tech Drafting CAD. Here's our course number. That CRN number, that's just specific to Fall 1, 2025. It's like the section, if you would. So it's really not an important number, but this is a 4-credit class. And we are going to be meeting for 80 hours. So we're going to be meeting for 10 hours per week, okay, for the course. It's in fall, and 2025 is our current year. Now, the offering format is face-to-face and then /hybrid, because as I told you earlier, I do have Zoom open. You can connect via Zoom off campus and still be in attendance for the class. So you get that option of where it makes the most sense for you to be. If you want to be here in class and you need the computers and such that are available, or sometimes maybe you live kind of far away and you're like, it's kind of a long ways for me. I'd kind of prefer to be at home. You certainly may do that as well. So you can decide where you want to be. You don't have to tell me, because then when I open up Zoom, I can see who's participating via Zoom, and you get counted for your attendance for that evening. We start tonight, and we're going to be meeting on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Okay, and then you're going to notice that on Mondays and Wednesdays, the times change just slightly for you guys. Okay, and I'll tell you why. You're going to notice on Mondays and Wednesdays here, we have a 4-hour block each night. I think it's scheduled 4 hours tonight, 3 hours tomorrow, and then 3 hours Wednesday, and then 3 hours on Friday. I like to run this class a little bit different. Okay. So I don't know about you, but Fridays, I kind of want to get out a little bit earlier than 8 o'clock, I think it would be, right? So we're going to do a 4, 4, and a 2 to get our hours in. So Mondays are going to be 4 hours. Wednesdays are going to be 4 hours till 9. And then Fridays are going to be 5 to 7. Okay. Or 6:50. Okay. So, what that offers us, and this is what my goal is, I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect every time. We will know on Wednesday what Friday looks like. My goal is to always have Friday as a work day so that you can decide if you have all your stuff done or you feel confident in the material that we've covered and you can get it done independently. you may not have to come on Fridays, okay? So I want to keep that kind of open as a standard work day, and then really kind of do our lectures and demos on Mondays and Wednesdays. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, again, I'm not going to say that's going to be perfect every week. I'm going to try my hardest to make Fridays a work day because I think it's kind of nice, because then if you indeed have other things going on and you want to use that time for something else, you do have that option. Wednesdays, I will always announce what Fridays look like, because we'll have a better idea, right? What the material that we get through. So that's how things have changed slightly. Are there any concerns about that at all? Yes. Oh, go ahead.
So class on Monday, Wednesday will end at 9 or 9:30?
9. So 8:50 actually, right?
8:50 today.
Oh, wait. Oh, not 9:50, 8:50. See, these are those little things. It's 4 hours, not 5 hours. Oh my goodness, that would be bad business. You know what I'm going to do? See, this is why. So we are always going to start at 5 and we are going to go till 8:50, not 9:50. So it's 4-hour block on both evenings. Does that make sense to everybody? Is that helpful? Okay. Was that your question as well? Okay. No, it's going to be, I'll be here. Okay. But you can decide where you want to be. Yeah. So I'll be here on Fridays that way. And we'll talk about having access to AutoCAD off campus and such. And if you don't, our computers have it on it. So I want to make sure that that's available for everybody, but you certainly can be. Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of just our boilerplate stuff. Let's get into the expectations. And you're going to notice right here, there's a PDF version of our syllabus. Okay. So this is kind of the standard format. If you want to pull it up on your computer, again, it might be easier to follow along, but otherwise it's up here as well. So you're going to notice kind of that information that we just talked about is right up here at kind of the top at the header. Okay. So we're going to go from today until October 10th, which is the last day of the class. Now, in this course, what we're going to be learning is kind of the basics of technical drafting. So one of the main jobs or job duties or skills that a mechanical designer, mechanical engineer need to know is how to create the documentation in order for something to be created or made in a manufacturing facility. So our goal in this class is to really get you, good information about that. So we're going to be looking at constructing parts, orthographic projected views, all on AutoCAD. Also putting dimensions on, pulling up and putting them on drawing borders and such. So by the time that we're done, you'll be able to create what we call a full set of working drawings, individual details as well as assemblies to an accepted standard that we use. It's called the ANSI standard. Okay, so there's things that you have to kind of learn along the way. So that's what we're going to be practicing and going over. Okay, and then we're going to be using, like I said, AutoCAD to help us with that. There aren't any prerequisites for this class. Okay, just really being enrolled in the program and interested in learning what we have to offer here. Now, there are 2 textbooks that are going to be required. The technical drawing for with engineering graphics, as well as the AutoCAD book. Now I'm going to switch my view here. So underneath the camera here, I have the technical drawing with engineering graphics. This is the 16th edition. Now, they should have it in the bookstore for you, but if you wanted to look online for a better price, usually there is a markup in our bookstore. You certainly may. So if you can look on Amazon for this or other retailers. But I also want to let you know, if you haven't bought it yet, you can go back a version like to the 15th edition. So if you find one less expensive and it's the 15th edition, you can use it. The main thing that's probably going to change content-wise, it's going to be the same, but they like to then switch around page numbers and add in different problems at the end. And we just have to do a comparison. And you can always do that with my book or a neighbor's of yours to get the same problems that we're working on or what we're actually referencing. But I've looked at the first couple modules here in detail, and I haven't found any differences yet. So when they do crop up, we will. So 15th or 16th edition is going to be totally fine. Okay. Now, this book also, we will be referencing it throughout the program. So in other courses, as we go along, we'll be maybe referencing back to this. And so it's a good book to keep and to have because it's also great reference for when you're out in industry because it's based on the standards that I was talking about earlier. The other one that you're going to want is going to be the AutoCAD 2026 tutorial. If you find, this is another case, if you find the 2025 or the 2024 and it's, less expensive, go ahead and order it, okay? Because again, AutoCAD itself doesn't change a whole lot. It's going to be a page numbers that are going to be a little bit different. And if we have to, we can always line up again with my book or somebody else's. So these are the two that we're going to be referencing on a regular basis each week in class, okay? Now, this is a pretty darn thick and heavy book, all right? Most often, again, I'll let you know if it's different. Most often Mondays I work out of this book and Wednesdays I work out of this one, okay? So it's kind of like tech drafting is usually on Mondays to kind of get concepts down, and then Wednesdays is usually the AutoCAD work that we do, okay? Sometimes it could be combined, but if you wanted to kind of plan ahead, that's probably going to be what we're going to be doing most often. Okay, so those are the two textbooks. Other materials that you're going to want, because we're going to be working with AutoCAD, which is a computer program where we need to save files. Having a flash drive is going to be a good idea. You'll be able to save to your OneDrive that you have here through WCTC, and that's totally fine. But just as anything else, it's always good to have a backup. So a flash drive is nice because that way, if for some reason you can't log on to your OneDrive, or if you're at home and you can't get access to it, at least then you have, the files that you need as well. Okay. Still, yes.
Recommended size.
I don't have a recommended size. You know what? I just have random ones laying around and they're always fine. So yeah, you don't have to spend a ton of money. You don't have to get like 3 terabytes or anything like that. Just a regular, standard flash drive should be good. Like I said, it's really for the purpose of backup so that as you're working, if something goes awry, you have that. All right. I say a scientific calculator here, not because we're going to be doing any trig, but if you are in another math class like tech math at the same time, or you're looking at taking tech math in the future, you are going to need a scientific calculator. Do not go out and buy anything special, at least for this class. So if you don't have any other need for a scientific calculator at this time, don't worry about it. But if you happen to have one, there's not, a specific that you need. And a scientific calculator just means that there's sine, cosine, tangent on it. You do not need a graphing calculator. You don't need a graphing calculator for anything in this program. Okay. So, but if you happen to have one, that'll suffice as well. All right. And then pencil, pen to take notes or whatever. Who's your instructor? As I said, my name is Kelly. I'm Kelly Riba, formally. My email is listed here, kriba@wctc.edu. And then my phone number. That is my cell phone number just because it's just easier if you want to send me a text or an email. I have those both on my phone, and that's the best way to get a hold of me, quite honestly. Expectations for response time. So if you ask me a question or if you're handing something in and you're wondering, when am I going to hear back from her? I really try to get assignments turned around within 24 to 48 hours so that you know how you're doing. There's nothing worse than handing something in and waiting and waiting and waiting and feel like, how did I do? I don't know, and then especially if you don't have it back by the time the next assignment is due. So no, I do turn around those pretty quickly. But if you text me or you email me, I also always want to get back to you within 24 hours. Okay. And if you don't hear from me, just gently say, hey, Kelly, did you see my email? Because sometimes, probably just like you might not be in the best place to answer at the moment. And then all of a sudden you get other notifications and text messages or emails, and it kind of falls down the wayside. And I never ignore you, I promise. But gently remind me. I say here as well, I don't guarantee a response on weekends or after 8 p.m. Now, the after 8 p.m. is only because I work all Monday through Friday. I have night classes, every night of the week. So if you are trying to get a hold of me, after 8 p.m., I'm probably still in class, and depending, I may or may not answer you back. And then it says not on the weekends. You'll get a hold of me on the weekends, but it just might not be within 10 minutes. Okay. So just kind of depending again where I'm at. So you are welcome to email and or text me, any one of those times, but just know that, depending on where I'm at, it might not be immediate. If you text me, email, I'll get your WCTC email through. But if you text me, just at least the very first time you text me, tell me who you are, because then I'll add you as a contact, and then I'll know the next time. And then this is my Zoom link, but there's a Zoom link in the class, my office. If you ever want to meet with me, I have office hours by appointment, because I find if I set an office hour, nobody comes to them anyway. So it's just better, like between the two of us, if you say to me, hey, could I meet with you an hour before class starts? I'll usually, yeah, that's going to work. But my office is across the way in where the administrative offices are here. So literally right across the hallway. The access to those offices is just up on the left-hand side here. There's an administrative assistant, and if any instructors that you have their office in there, then they'll let you know if we're available or not. But otherwise, just set it up with me via email and or text, and we can find a common time. Now, what will I learn in this course? I'm not going to read these, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 things that are here. As I said earlier, our goal is to get you introduced to the language, the communication tool, being able to create the documentation so that parts can be made. Okay. And we're going to be learning the standards along the way. Critical life skills here at WCTC. As you work through our programs, we are going to be I don't know if I say teach you, but you're going to be practicing, you're going to be assessed on some critical life skills. And in this particular class, the critical life skills that are going to be appropriate are going to be communication, critical thinking and problem solving, self-management, and relationships. So for instance, communication are things like being able to convey your ideas in whatever format that I'm asking for. And that's usually through handing in assignments, okay, and making sure that I can work through them and understand what you're trying to do, and I can correct them and they're neat and orderly, okay? Critical thinking, problem solving. Those two things are very important in the programs that you're in, because many times you have a bunch of variables coming at you, but you have this solution that you need to determine. Now, even though you have all these variables, which ones are the most important for me to pick out to get to the solution that I'm looking for? That's what critical thinking really is, okay? So you'll be doing that along the way here in this course. Relationships, students are going to probably be working with others or with your instructor to work through problems. And then self-management, that's really meeting the deadlines, making sure that you can, manage outside influences as well as your courses that you have, this one or maybe others that you have at LTC, being able to manage your time and such. As we look here, there's also program outcomes. So critical life skills are WCTC in general, being a student here on our campus. Program outcomes are specific to the individual technical programs that you are in. So in this particular class, it's documenting a design using 2D CAD. It's general technical documentation or documents using the industry accepted software, like using AutoCAD. That's going to be something that you're going to come upon out in industry. And then also resolving mechanical design problems. So the kind of general, kind of vague things, but we do, hit each one of those in this particular class. Now, outside or external standards that we're going to be using are going to be what we see here, the Ask Me Why 14.5 2018 standard. All that means, the 2018 standard means that was the year that it was last updated. So it's considered the most current standard. I know we're in 2025, but they don't update it every year. They do it every 10-ish years. Okay. So we're probably due for another one coming up. And usually those updates aren't so much that everything is different, but it's usually a reflection of what's going on in industry. Like we now have competencies where they consider CAD software in the standard and what those standards should be. So things like that. So as things evolve in the industry, they'll update those. But this standard is basically like when you were in grade school and in high school, you know how you were learning the English language and the proper sentence structure and writing and paragraphs and all that kind of stuff so you could communicate with other people? That's really what this standard is. When we are in the world that we're in, mechanical design, mechanical engineering, and we're creating this documentation for other people, not only inside, but also outside our walls, outside our country, and in the world, that they'll be able to interpret what we need. So, or what we want to happen so that something is functional. So those standards are going to be introduced here in this class, but then also continue to be reinforced throughout classes throughout our program here at WCTC. So that's going to be and ASME is the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. They like oversee this body of knowledge or the standard. Okay. Hello, hello. Are you here for tech drafting?
Yep.
All right, find a spot. You're in the right spot. Now, what technology skills will you need for this course? Now, technically none coming in because as I said earlier, there are no prerequisites for this class, okay? So as we go along, probably the expectation is, can I turn on a computer? Can I log in? Can I kind of navigate some directories? And that's really about it. The software that you're going to be using in our program, which like I said, is going to be, well, Canvas, but then also AutoCAD is loaded on all of our computers here, okay? Now, if you want access to AutoCAD, for instance, outside of class, just like you can access your Canvas outside of class, right? You don't have to be on campus here to see that. You can do the same for, did I say SolidWorks? I didn't mean to say SolidWorks, AutoCAD, because I'm doing SolidWorks tomorrow. But if you want access to it off campus, you can get a free version of AutoCAD that is good for 1 year. And I'll show you in our Canvas shell where you can get that download, that link to download. And then that way, what that offers for you is some flexibility of where you can do the work that you want to, okay? There are some computer requirements because they need to be a little faster computers or things like that. But for the most part, a lot of people have a lot of success, loading when they want to on a laptop, for instance, or on a computer at home. Okay, so I'll get you those details for that. Like I said, a solid understanding of computer like Microsoft Words, navigating, setting up directories, saving files and such. And we'll be going over file formats that we have in the software that we use. If you have any, problems, whether it is on or off campus, you can contact WCTC's Service Help Desk, okay? So even if it's on your own individual device, like on your phone, and my email isn't working, they can help you with that, okay? Or I want to get the app for Canvas so that I can, see what's out there, or I can reference some things there for this or other classes that you might have, and you can't get it to work, our help desk is going to help you with that, okay? If you're having issues, for instance, on your own computer and you're trying to download that AutoCAD software and it's not loading up or they load all the software here on all of our computers. They are going to be really knowledgeable to help you, even if it's your individual device, okay? So don't think that just because it's on my own stuff, WCTC won't help me. Yes, they will. Okay. And you can even walk down there with your computer, and they're actually located now right at the entrance of the library. Do you guys know where that is? It's kind of like by the bookstore. Okay. Right there in that area. They're always willing to help. You can also you can either send them an email, or you can go to the technical resources page here. It'll take you to a place where you can put in a request for them to contact you. Okay. They're wonderful. I go and bug them all the time too. So don't feel bad about that. Now, why we're here, you probably want to know, okay, how am I going to be graded in this class? All right. That's usually what students are most interested in. Now, there are two things that you're going to be graded on in this class. You're going to have practice problems to do, and you're going to have assignments. Okay. The practice problems are going to be things that I demonstrate here in class. Okay. I don't want you to just kind of space out or work on other things while I'm lecturing and doing demonstrations. I want you to be working through the things that we're doing, especially in the AutoCAD part of things. Okay. It kind of gets you a little bit of experience while I'm lecturing. And my expectation is that you're going to hand those in. All right. So those are called practice problems. I basically start to finish, go through those for you. Now, I will always, like I said earlier, I'm always going to record my lectures or the examples or the demos that we do, and I'll have those labeled, and I'm going to show you a little bit later in Canvas where you can find those for each one of the times that we get together. So you can always go back and reference those as well. But those are going to be things. So when we're in class and when I'm going over things and demoing things, I want you following along. I want you practicing as we go along. Okay. Now those are going to be checked for completion just one time. So you only get one attempt for practice problems. And it's kind of like, did you do it or didn't you? Now, if I see a couple little things, I am not going to, take points off. So it's not like you're going to get a grade out of 10 points. You basically get 10 points or you get 0 points. All right, that's it. And it's really just my check. And like I said, if I see anything glaring, like you didn't get all the way through, you didn't finish the whole thing, or there's some, kind of weird things going on. It doesn't usually happen because, again, you're going to have me demoing it and you're also going to have the recordings to go back to. You get the full points. Now, for practice problems, you get full credit when you hand it in by the due date plus a 7-day grace period. Okay, so a 7-day grace period is 7 days after the due date. You can still hand in for full credit. Okay. Now, the reason I do that is I'm picking a due date and it's always going to be on Friday. It's always going to be on Friday at the end of the day. Okay. Maybe Friday, whatever week, this week, next week, or sometime during the term, that's not a good day for me. I kind of had a bad week and I had other things that I was doing during the week. So I usually get students asking, can I have a little bit of extra time or can I hand it in on Monday after I work on it on the weekend? And I always say yes. Okay. I always do. But then I've got to remember, who did I say? They could hand it in later. Okay. So instead of worrying about that, everybody gets a 7-day grace period. So when the due date is, for instance, on a Friday, if Monday's better for you because you'll have time over the weekend to work on it, you don't have to ask me, just hand it in within that 7-day grace period. So you're going to have an entire week to hand in whenever it's best for you. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So that's what the 7-day grace period means. Now, for practice problems, if you don't hand it in during the 7-day grace period, you can't hand it in anymore and you get a 0 on it. Okay. So you kind of get a full week, all right, to get those in. Now, practice problems are worth, and I'm not going to say only, but they're worth 20% of your grade. It's an easy 20% to get because I truly go over it all, demonstrates top to bottom exactly what it is and what I expect from you. So, and you're in here in class, there shouldn't be a reason not to do it. Okay. So you always want to do them, even if they seem like, oh, they're not worth that much. Well, 20% is 20%. All right. And it's an easy 20% to get. All right. Module assignments. Module assignments are 80% of your grade. So basically the lecture and the demo, practice problems. Okay. That's like your practice to kind of get up to speed. All right. So I don't want to be grading you on the practice that you're doing. I want you to just get good practice. All right. Without any pressure. All right. Then the assignments though are where you got to show me that you get it. Okay. So the assignments, you get 2 attempts. Okay. You get an initial submission and 1 correction. So if you hand it in on the due date, the set due date, for instance, let's say it's this Friday, set due date is this Friday. Remember, you get a 7-day grace period after. So if you hand it in on Friday, but let's say I took off a couple points because you missed this, that, or the other. All right. You can make corrections for full points back during the 7-day grace period. Okay. So it's to your advantage to hand in earlier because then if there are any adjustments to make, you still have time to do that and earn all the points back. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, so that means you get 2 attempts. You get your initial plus corrections during the 7-day grace period. Now, once that 7-day grace period elapses, 2 things happen on assignments. You can still hand in assignments, but there's going to be a 25% deduction on the points that you earn, and you won't get any corrections at that point. Okay, does that sound fair? So let's say something just kind of happens and it's like, I missed the 7-day grace period. Don't forget, you can always hand the assignment in. You still are going to get 25 or 75% of it. So it's still worth it. And you get that until the end of the term. So till our last day. If let's say you don't hand in module 1 assignment for the assignment, you go past the 7-day grace period. Now you do get a 25% deduction, but it's still 75%. Okay. And you have until the end of the term. I will continue to remind you of these things every single week when we have a due date and when we're in the grace period, and we'll look at the calendar. So don't think that you have to memorize it. But the reason I do things this way with the 7-day grace period is I find that the number one reason, and I've been teaching for quite a long time, the number one reason that students cheat, and I don't want you to cheat, is because they're usually trying to just make the deadline, because if they don't get it in, they're not going to get any points. Okay. You guys probably, I'm assuming, have other stuff going on besides this class at WCTC. You may have work. A lot of people in our program areas work full time. They have families, okay? And just kind of by default, if something has to give, it's usually going to be WCTC, right? It's going to be the classwork, right? There's not, if you don't go to work, you're not going to get paid potentially. All right. If you don't go to something with your family, you're going to miss out on some good stuff, right? I would much rather you push that other stuff. That's why I have a 7-day grace period. So if you need a little bit of extra time, 1 week or each week, or Friday's not a good day for me, Monday's better, just do it then. Manage it yourself. That's the self-management part of this. Okay. And I would much rather you push a little bit on my end rather than one of those other things that could potentially be more important. Okay. Does that make sense? Now, I will tell you this though. Don't ask me to go beyond the 7-day grace period because you already got 7 days. All right. Does that make sense to everybody? So try your hardest to stick as close to those set due dates as possible and just use the 7-day grace period as exactly that when you need it. Okay. Grade deductions can occur because of a missed class. We will talk about the attendance policy. That is new this year to our division. So that's going to be something new. So we'll talk about those details in a little bit. So there might be some grade deductions due to that, but that's coming. Now, your grade that you're going to receive, we do A minus, B plus, B minus, and so on. And then whatever you earn and in Canvas in your grade book, you will always know exactly where you stand in this class. Okay. And then it'll correspond to the letter grade that you see here. The next, it has a question here. When can I expect feedback? Here I say within 3 days. And when I say feedback on assignments, that's really like correcting it and getting it back to you. I will always do that all through Canvas. You'll hand in Canvas and I'm going to grade and all of my notes will be out there in Canvas as well. To me, it's a nice place. I don't like, and if you say to me, can I just hand this to you? I'm going to say, no, I don't want the paper because I'm going to lose it. Okay. This way we both have a record and we both can go back and you can see, because I'll mark up like on your PDFs, I'll show you how you can hand things in. And then everything is in one place. Okay. So I will always get those corrected and turned around every day. I go through and I like to have nothing to correct by the time I go to bed. All right. So usually I'm pretty good, but it might be a day or two sometimes if there are things that are a little bit longer to correct. Okay. Because again, I want to make sure that you have back. And then also, if you have the opportunity to do corrections during that 7-day grace period, I want you to be able to do that. Okay. Because if I'm offering it, I got to be able to get that back to you. Attendance policy. So attendance is required for, and it is taken at each one of our classes. This can either be in person, physically in our room here at WCTC, or you can be via Zoom. Okay. And that means that you, like when we go into, I don't know if I can see it here. Well, when you go into Zoom, I would have to close out here. I'm not going to do that right now. I can see who comes in. All right. And then I can let you into our meeting or our room. And then you will be wherever you're at on your computer, seeing like what's up on my screen here and hearing my voice in the background. Okay. So I think it's pretty darn close to being here in class. Our lecture demo times are going to be a time for you to gain an understanding of the concepts and pertaining to our assigned chapters and in the textbook. Additionally, I'll perform demonstrations, practice problems, or examples that will mimic the module assignments to help you understand the requirements. So if I'm doing it here in class, required, and that's the way that I want you to do it on your assignments, okay? You can either be virtual via Zoom or in person. So there's a little bit down below and just a little bit as far as attendance. If you're unable to attend class, please notify me of your absence via email. Don't text me you're not going to be here. Do it via email, because that way I've got an official WCTC paper trail, if you would. You can be like, I emailed you. If you say I texted you, let's hope for the best. Okay. I have a decent phone, honestly. I should be able to get it and it should be there. But if in the event it gets deleted, if it's a WCTC email and you send it that way, then we're covered, both ways. And then I can always go back to my email and find it. Now, here's the new attendance policy. Okay. So this is new to me too. this term. So WCATC enforces a no-show, no-call drop policy during the first week. Okay, you guys are already here already, so you don't have to worry about that. Meaning, if you don't show up the first week, I can drop you. Okay, and we'll drop you. All right, because we don't want you know you to be here and be having to pay for something that that you wouldn't be attending. If you do not attend the first day, your instructor will drop you. If you're unable to attend the first day, you need to contact your instructor immediately. So if that happens for any other classes, that's how that works. Okay. Now, after the first week of the course, you may be withdrawn. You would withdraw yourself. So I can't withdraw you anymore after the first week of the class. And you have up until the 75% point in our course in order to drop without it affecting your grade point average. Okay. Does that make sense? Because if we get to the end and you haven't been in class and you're like, well, I didn't go, I shouldn't be getting graded, you will be getting graded. Because again, if you came the first week, you're in. Okay. I can't drop you anymore after. All right. Now I'll try to get a hold of you. I'll email you. I'll kind of let, you know, kind of bug you about it, but it's up to you to drop yourself. And honestly, sometimes let's say you start the semester and you have good intentions, but you're like, oh boy, that sounds like a pretty hefty class. I don't know if I can handle it with the other things that I have going outside of class. The sooner you can drop it, the better for you because you will get some money back. After the first day, I think they take something off. So even being here today, you've lost a little bit of money. But if you're like, I don't think that's going to work out for me, you want to drop ASAP. Okay, that's any class, all right? Because then you potentially can get some money back. And then they have a link here to the drop policy and such. You're expected to attend all the scheduled classes, which, like I said, is required. You're an important part of the learning process. Additionally, there may be some in-class assignments and such. I don't assign anything that if you choose to be virtual is going to hinder you from getting something done. Does that make sense? Okay, so if you're virtual, you're not going to be penalized for that. You're expected to show up for class on time and be present during the entire duration. With the exception of this class. So during our first hour or two, I'm always going to be lecturing, demoing, you know, giving information, kind of preparing you for what the assignment is going to be. And then you will always have lab time or work time to work. Okay. If during that time, you guys are adults. Okay. If during that time you either number one, finish, or if you've been working all day and it's like 8 o'clock and you're like, I'm kind of done. And I really, even if I work on this, I'm not going to really make much progress. You can leave. Okay. But the expectation is that you have other time, maybe independently on your own computer, or you come in another time to work to get the work done. Okay. Because if you're missing some, you might not have enough to get, you know, the work in on time. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So I don't hold you here. I don't make you stay until 9 o'clock, but make sure that you're also giving yourself enough time, whether it's in class or outside of class, to then meet the requirements. Okay. Zoom specific courses. So again, like I said, you have the option to attend with full credit via Zoom if you so choose. To be considered present, you must have a camera on and a working microphone. Okay, I can work without the microphone, I will tell you that, because there's a chat box that you can always put a question in or so. Some people just don't have that audio, and that's okay. But I do need a camera, and I need the camera because I want to be sure. It's for two reasons. Number one, I kind of got to be sure that you're working on this stuff, that you're not just, you know, doing whatever. I had one guy, he was nice. He really was nice. And I kind of really liked him, but I'm like, you're driving around in your car. You do, you do, yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know, and he was, you know, and I guess I didn't have it, you know, on my policies, but I'm like, you're really not ready to work, okay? So, but I know that sometimes I've had students before where they're like, hey, I'm out of town, you know, I'm out of town because of work, and I'm not going to necessarily be in front of a computer. Is it okay if, you know? And that's okay. Just let me know ahead of time, and then if I know, that's totally fine. So just be sure that you have that camera on. Also, I've had it before too, where I don't always have you keep your camera on the entire time just because I'm recording the screen. You don't necessarily want to have your face on the screen for the whole recording. I totally get that and understand that. But during our work time, I check in with you guys. Okay. So if you're virtual and you're not checking in, then I feel like, are you there? Are you not? And so make sure that your camera is always available and that you are, ready to answer questions or work. An instructor can exclude a student from further participation in a course when warranted. Okay. Now, a lot of these things don't apply to us, but usually the attendance policy. So, for instance, down here, and this is where it gets a little, there's kind of a lot of details here. So, if you arrive late to class, okay, if you arrive, for instance, a half hour late, you will be counted for a half hour missed. But if it's anything before 30 minutes, you get counted for the entire time you're there. Okay. Like I said earlier, if you leave early, okay, that's okay. You'll be counted for the full 4 hours. Does that make sense? It's really just on the front end that I like am going to be enforcing that. After a half hour, up to 1 hour, you'll be counted for an hour missed. Anytime over an hour will be counted for half of the class. And then past half the class, you don't get any credit. Okay. So usually it's within that first, start of the class. If you contact me and you say, hey, Kelly, I'm going to be a half hour late, I'm running late, or whatever it might be, this doesn't apply. All right. This doesn't apply. Just kind of, really what I think of our attendance policy is I'm trying to prepare you for working on an industry and what the expectations would be. So many of you probably already run under those expectations where you work. Let me know you're not going to be here. Okay. And if you are going to be a little late, just let me know and we're good. Now, the maximum amount of time that a student can miss before a grade reduction occurs. So we're in an 80-hour class. And even though I know we're 4 credits, but we're 80 hours a week. So we're 10 hours total. That means that you have 10 hours a week. That means that you can miss 10 hours. You can miss 1 week in this class without getting a reduction in your grade. Does that make sense? So 3 separate times, 10 hours total. All right. After that 10th hour, that's when you start missing out. You get 1% deduction per hour. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you're here, like I said, from the beginning of class till, let's say, 8 o'clock, you left an hour early because you were kind of either done or you were going to plan to do things. You're there for the whole 4 hours and I will count you as 4 hours. It's only on that front end where you're late or you don't bother letting me know that you're not going to be here. Okay. If you just don't come, that's 4 hours that you just lost. Okay. But if you let me know ahead of time, remember, you're good. Does that make sense? Okay. Just kind of being responsible that way. And as that develops, again, this is new to me too. We'll work through that. On time and late work policy. So I've kind of alluded this to you guys already in the grading. So each one of our assignments is going to have a set due date. It's going to always be on a Friday. So if we're working on module 1 this week, Friday is our due date for the module 1 homework. Okay. You'll be able to hand in practice problems and assignments 7 days after the due date without a penalty for full credit. Okay. This is called the 7-day grace period. Practice problems will not be accepted after that 7-day grace period. Remember, those are a 0 or a 10. They're done or they're not. And they're the things that we're doing right here in class. Okay. Assignments handed in after the 7-day grace period will have a deduction of 25% and no opportunity for grade or for corrections. Okay. So we did go over that earlier, but again, I'll be reminding you that as we go along. No work will be accepted after the final day of the course. So I believe that's the 10th of October. Okay. Any assignments or practice problems not submitted will be graded as a 0 and calculated into your final grade. All right. Please note, and this is totally unscientific, students who attend class on a regular basis and hand in their work by or very close to those due dates earn the highest grades in the class, honestly. All right. We're a build. So if you stay on track here at the beginning of the course and kind of get in that habit, it's going to be easier as we go along. Honestly, it's going to kind of all make sense. But if you let things slide and you get behind, and sometimes it happens for good reasons. I'm not faulting you. Just know that it's not as easy to stay on track. Okay. And you'll have to kind of make up. So I just say that this is an unscientific observation. I have taught for 26 years. Sometimes I'm like, holy cow, every year that number goes up. So I've been teaching for a while. So anyway, okay. Learning environment etiquette. This just means what am I expected to do here in the classroom? And I'm not going to go. There's a student code of conduct, and you can go over that independently. But here are some of the things individually that I expect. Number one, be ready to work when you come to class. Okay. If you're virtual, have your webcam on and working all times when you're virtual and being available if I, call on you or something like that. Come to class with any and all pre-work done. Okay. So for instance, and when I say pre-work, I don't know that there's always going to be assignments that you have done beforehand, but if you missed a class, make sure that you watch the video from the previous class that you missed before coming back to the next class. That way you're caught up because again, we build each time that we're together. Be respectful to the others by refraining from chatting to other students while others are either asking questions or I'm talking, okay? Stay on task with the work during our lecture and lab times. Refrain from personal electronic devices during our scheduled time. If you have a laptop that you end up putting AutoCAD on and you want to work on your laptop both at home and here, you're welcome to do so. So that I don't consider. But please don't on our computers, on a computer that you may bring or on a tablet, please don't be working or playing games and things like that. It's distracting, believe it or not. Maybe you don't think it is, but there's people sitting in back of you that can see your screen. Have you ever been in a class where somebody's like playing games and it's like you're trying to pay attention, but you're kind of watching the game and I don't know. It's distracting. So that's my expectation there. If I catch you doing that, I'm going to tell you to stop. If I have to do it 2 or 3 times, then I'm probably gonna ask you to leave. And then all of a sudden our attendance policy has to kick in. Okay. So just don't. All right. You guys paid for this. So I'm hoping you don't want to play games while you're here. During our open work time, keep conversations to a low level and on task with the subject of our lesson. Feel free to help one another out. If you're, working on something, you notice somebody is struggling, or if you have somebody next to you, you're like, hey, do you know how to feel free? Okay. That's part of, that interpersonal, communication as well. When you're out in industry and you're working in an engineering department, you're going to have people that you can bounce ideas off of. So I encourage you to do that here as well. But please take personal conversations outside to a degree, and topics of conversation that are off limits are things like religion, politics, sex, race, or anything else that causes angst. Okay. So just keep it educational and nice. Feel free to ask any questions as they come up during my demonstration, lectures, and open work time. I'm here to help you. And help your fellow students, as I just said. No swearing or foul language is allowed in my classroom, okay? If it slips, fine, I might say, careful, but refrain from that being the regular adjective that you use all the time, okay? I know that there are times and places for that to happen, and I think in our society it has become way more acceptable, but we are training you for a career in a professional environment, and that would be an expectation is professional language. So keep that very minimum, okay? Always apply the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. So again, if you're bothered by loud noises and such, try not to be loud, to other people in class and so on. So any questions about expectations? Personal electronic devices, I'm not going to collect them. I'm not going to say that you have to turn them off. If they accidentally go off and you have an alarm or your phone rings, it happens. All right. Try to put it on do not disturb or on vibrate so that so it doesn't disturb others. If you need to take a phone call, just walk yourself out. You don't have to ask me to leave or anything like that. You guys are adults. Just take it outside and you can finish up what you need to there. It's totally fine. Other policies and reminders, and this is really, again, about assignments and practice problems. I'm not going to go over each one of those again, but they're here as reminders. And again, as things come up, we're going to, be reinforcing that. Course extensions, as I said earlier, there are no course extensions past the last day of this course. Okay, so everything has to be handed in there. Inside of our course, you can kind of, work with that 7-day grace period for a little bit of flexibility, but the end is the end. All right. Communication outside of class, as I said, you can email me, you can text me. Again, I don't guarantee on weekends, but you'll get a hold of me. Don't worry. It just might not be right away. Cheating. If you're caught cheating in my class, using somebody else's work, believe it or not, when you have electronic files, it's really easy to know. And actually, I can look at it and I'd be like, that looks a little familiar. And they happen to sit next to each other and they seem like they're good friends. And then I have to look and I look at the file and I see it was originally made by somebody else, then who's turning it in. And then I'm like, ah, crap. All right. Don't do it. And like I said earlier, one of the biggest reasons I have that 7-day grace period is so you don't have to feel that pressure. Okay. And even if you don't meet the 7-day grace period, you still get 75% of that grade. Okay. So please resist that urge and just kind of take the bump if you have to. It just happens. And it's not going to ruin your grade as long as you don't hand everything in late. Does that make sense? Okay. So don't cheat in my class, because if I do find you cheating, I have to withdraw you. I have to fail you, and then you got to take this class again. Okay. And I don't want that to happen for you. All right. Um, and I always say this to students too, and it's not to be funny. I'm not looking for it. I'm not looking for it. Every one of you has paid money to be here. Okay. I assume that you're interested in this subject and that you're invested in this program. Okay. And that at the end, whatever's out there for you and whatever you want, that's of interest to you. So I don't want you to feel like you have to cheat. All right. So just don't do it. And I don't look for it because I'm thinking in those terms of everybody. So this is what I say. If I catch you cheating, you're really bad at it. Okay. Because I'm not looking for it, but it becomes obvious. It just becomes obvious. All right. But I also want you to make sure that that doesn't mean you can't work with other people. We know the fine line between cheating and working together. It's one thing to get insight from somebody else and some help, as opposed to copying or taking a file just to hand it in, right? We know that. So that's what I have there for that. Outside of classwork, although we have class time set aside, our work time, our lab time, after I'm done with lecture and demo, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get done with everything all the time. So you may have to put in extra time for this class. And it's not unreasonable to expect anywhere from 2 to 3 hours of additional work needed outside of class. Some weeks it might be way less. Other weeks it might be that. All right. It just all depends on everybody's experiences and coming in. And as you know, sometimes you get it and sometimes like, oh, I need a little bit of extra time with that. That's the learning process. It's not a straight line. Okay. So just know that outside of class, you may have things to do here. Virtual Zoom sessions, I'll always broadcast live from both the classroom and or from my home. If I ever need to, be virtual, I'll let you know, but that doesn't happen very often. We may even schedule a class time sometime that's virtual, but right now all of them are going to be at our normal class time, and I'll be here. Please see the course calendar for any on-campus or Zoom lecture times. Right now, there are none. You must have your webcam on and working to be counted in attendance. If you do not, as we said earlier, there are those consequences. Check your email and announcement before coming to campus, always. That's always a good idea. Again, not just for my class, but for any others. That's going to be the main mode of communication that you're going to get that class is canceled. If you're coming from afar away, I hate for you to make a trip if you don't have to. Okay. So make sure you do that. Then how can you get help? There are lots of resources here at WCTC, and these are the ones that are listed. So if you need help with anything, for the most part, our learning centers don't know AutoCAD. So really the time that we have in here and available with me and your classmates is going to be probably going to be the best. There's also some other campus-wide learning and student experience types of things that you can be involved in, and those are listed here as well, and they're all part of your WCTC student handbook and such. Okay, so again, I'm not going to go over all those, but they're there for you. What are the dates that you have to be aware of? So I just really broke this down. This is my plan at this time, but it may adjust, slide a little bit one way or the other, depending on what we get through in a week. I usually have a good idea, just like everybody else. I have all these expectations, like I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and this today. Then you get to the end of the day, I'm like, oh crap, I only got one of those done. I also know, and I look at the room. I can tell when you guys are ready to move on. I can tell if there's a lot of people that are still working. I'm always going to work in your favor. Okay. So this is my best guess at what we're going to be doing. There are 8 weeks. There are 8 modules, and basically we kind of go module to module, and these are the chapters and such that I'm planning on right now. But again, it might change a little bit as we move through. So syllabus questions. Yes.
I did see that you had noted 8 to 9:45 a.m. on the very last class.
Thank you.
I didn't know if that was a typo or if
It's
there
a
was
typo,
something.
I'm sure. Oh, was that on the syllabus?
Yeah.
That last
Probably
thing?
in the last 8 weeks.
Just like anything else, when you go from one year to the next, you kind of, oh, I'm going to use my syllabus from the year before. And then you go through and you're like, I read it over 4 times. So if you do find any little things like that, let me know. I will get those corrected. So thank you. So yeah, it'll be our normal time, the 5 to 7. Yeah. Okay. And everybody understands and is good with the 4-4-2. So 4 on Monday, 4 on Wednesday, 2 on Friday. Okay. All right. All right. So what I'm going to do is I have been talking for an hour, which I think it's always good to maybe get up because I can, again, read my room. Might need to just take a 10-minute break and we'll be back. And then we're going to go over Canvas and then we'll get into module 1. Okay.